Hello everyone. Today we will be solving 9618 Summer 25 Paper 4-1's question number 2. So this is a question mainly about file handling and arrays as well. Okay, so we'll just get started with the question. So it says a program reads the data from a text file, splits the data depending on its content, and stores the separated data into different files. Alright, so the text file, the data.txt, contains 72 lines of data. Each line of data has an integer number and a string color that are separated by a comma. For example, the first line in the file is 10, red. So basically, each line is going to have a number and then a comma and then a color, right? So when they say that in the question, they say it splits the data depending on its content. So we can assume that they're going to ask us to split the color and the number, and then we'll use by comma separation. Alright, so it says the integer is 10 and the string is red. Okay, so the file contains 6 different colors, so red, green, blue, orange, yellow, and pink. Alright, so the A part says the function read data prompts the user to enter a file name and reads this file name from the user, opens the file and reads each line of data into a 1D array, returns the populated 1D array. Okay, the function needs to work for a file that contains an unknown number of lines. Okay, so they actually did tell us that there are 72 lines of data in this file, but we have to create a function that's going to work for a file that we do not know how many number of lines that has. Okay, so we'll just get started on the question. So first we'll just write read data. We'll declare the function. Okay, so the first step is that we have to prompt the user to enter a file name and read this file name from the user. Okay, and then we open the file that the user has entered. Okay, so when it comes to the question that we're solving, our question relates to the data.txt. Okay, and we know that when we have to open a file, we have to copy the file path as well, right? So we can write it in a way, because obviously when we take input from the user, we need to check if it matches the data.txt, if the name matches this, and then we open the data.txt if it matches it. Otherwise, we'll just say that the file was not found, right? So first, we're just going to ask the user file name is equal to input enter file name. Okay, basically just ask them for an input. Okay, then obviously when we have to open the file, we have to use exception handling. So for that, we'll write try, and then first we're going to check if the file name matches the file that we are supposed to open. So if the file name is equal to the data.txt, which for this specific question we're going to be using, we're going to open this file. Okay, so to open the file, we write open bracket, then r, comma, r quotation mark, and then we copy the file path. So this is my file. I'm going to do get info, and I'm going to copy where this file is. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this file path over here. Then I'm going to write the name of the file, and then slash, comma, for opening for read, right? So now that we've opened this file, we are going to deal with this file. Okay, so in the else part, when we only if the file name is the data.txt, then we're going to open this file. Otherwise, we're just going to print that the file was not found. Okay, so we have to open the file and read each line of data into a 1D array, and we have to return the populated 1D array. Okay, so we can create a 1D array. We can do it outside the function. We can also do it inside the function. Okay, now we're going to create a variable called data where we can read the file line. So one by one, we're going to read what is in the file. And because we have to do it for a file that has an unknown number of lines, we're going to say while data is not equal to empty, like while the line that is read from the file is not empty, we're going to continue reading the line, and we're going to continue to append it into our array. So we're going to append, we have this array file data, we're going to append the file that the line that we've read from the file. Okay, and then again, obviously, we're going to read the next line. So file dot read line dot strip. The strip is to basically remove any extra space. Okay, then we're going to do file dot close. So what this is going to do is it's going to check if the file name is the data.txt. Then we're going to open the file by copying the file path, and we're opening it for read. Okay, then we're going to make a variable called data where we're going to read each line of the file. And this is going to continue until when we read a line, it's going to be empty. So when we read the line, we're going to append it to the array file data that we've created outside the function. You can also create it inside the function, but sometimes you need to use things in the main program as well. So it's safer to create it outside the program. Then we're going to read the next line as well again, and then we have to save it in data, and then the loop is going to work until we get an empty line in data. Then it's going to stop, and then we're going to close the file. And then we're going to go back to the exception handling part where we write that except we have to print that the file is not found, which is going to do two functions in this case. That it's if our file name is not this, it's going to do this, and if the file is not found like generally in your computer, then it's also going to do this. All right, so we can move on to the B part. So it says the procedure split data takes a 1D string array as a parameter with the identifier data array. The procedure declares 6 1D arrays, one array for each color that appears in the file: red, green, blue, orange, yellow, pink. Okay, so we're basically going to create 6 arrays, for one for each color. And we're creating a procedure called split data, which takes a 1D string array as a parameter and it's going to be called data array. Okay. So the procedure accesses each string in data array. The data in each string is split into integer and color. The integer is stored in the array that matches the color. Okay, so basically in our question, for example, if the first line was 10 red, we're going to split both of these things, and then we're going to check what the color was for this specific line. So if the color was red, we're going to go to the red array that we've created and save the number 10 over there. And this is going to continue for all of the lines in the file. So for example, the first string in data array has the integer 10 and the color red. So the integer 10 is stored in the array for the color red, which is just what I explained. So we have to write program for split data. So the first step we're going to do is when we first we're going to declare the procedure. So we'll write what was the name? Split data, and it has one parameter, which is the data array, right? Next, what we're going to do is we're going to declare 6 1D arrays, one for each color. Okay, so we're going to be like red, yellow, orange, green, blue, and pink. I think these were all the colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Red, green, blue, orange, yellow, pink. Yes. Okay, so we've created 6 1D arrays as well. So now we're going to say the procedure accesses each string in the 1D array. The data in each string is split into the integer and the color. The integer is stored in the array that matches its color. So for the first step, what we're going to do is we have to access the contents of data array. So we're going to read the entire array element by element, and we're going to split the contents and store it into when we're splitting. Usually when we do comma separated splitting, we tell the program, we use a split function, and we tell what variable, what character we're using to split it, and then we store both of the contents separately in an array, right? So if when I'm going to write this, it's going to make more sense. So I'll write, for example, first I'll just start off with making the loop, which is going to run until data array ends. We don't know the length of data array, so we'll just write length of data array. This is to access all of the elements. Then we can create a small array called split, where we'll have the split element store. Like for example, if I'm splitting the line 10 red by the comma, so the first element in split at index 0 is going to have 10, and the second element is gonna have red, okay, as a string. So first we're gonna do split is equal to, we're gonna access the first element, which is we're gonna get by the index x dot split, which we are separating by the comma, right? And we're going to store that into our array. Okay. So now we're going to check that if the second element, which is at the first index of the split array, which is going to have the color, if that is red or yellow or orange or green or blue or pink, we're going to store the integer to that as well. All right. So first we're going to check if split 1, because the first index is 0, so we're going to check for 1, is red. Then you append to the red array. We're going to append whatever integer is in the index number 0. So the index number 0 has the integer and the index number 1 has the color. But this integer is stored as a string inside the split array, because an array at one time can only have one data type, right? An array cannot have one element as an integer and one element as a string. So we have to convert this into an integer to append it, because then red is going to have all of these colors arrays are going to have integer area data type. Okay, so next, if split 1 is equal to yellow, we are gonna append in the yellow array. So we are gonna continue this till we get to all of the colors, right? Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'm just gonna keep changing the color names so that it's easier. After yellow, it was orange, and then we have green, then we have blue, and then lastly we have pink. Okay, so this is our B part. So if we dry run this once again, basically ये करेगा क्या कि split, we have the split array, we created the array, it's going to get the first element of data array and it's going to split it with the comma. So comma से split हो जाएगा, तो comma से पहले जो चीज़ होगी वो पहले index में चली जाएगी, दूसरी जो चीज़ होगी वो दूसरे index में चली जाएगी. This also works for if there are multiple things, like for example if my statement was 10 red flower like this, तो ये इसको 0 इंडेक्स में डाल देगा, इसको फर्स्ट इंडेक्स में डाल देगा और इसको सेकंड इंडेक्स में डाल देगा. It's also going to work for multiple comma separated values. Okay, so then we're going to check that if split के first index पे जो पड़ा हुआ है, what color is that, and then according to that color we're going to append it to the matching color array, and हम लोग integer में convert कर देंगे जो कि index 0 पे पड़ा होगा, because वो integer है. Okay, so now moving on to the C part. The procedure store data. So now we're writing in another procedure. Takes two parameters, a 1D array data to store and a file name. Okay, तो ये दो parameter लेगा, एक होगा data to store and the other is a file name. Okay, so we open the text file with the file name that is passed as a parameter. Appends each item of the data from data to store to a new line in the text file. Okay, so now we're basically getting file names and we have to append, like we have to write into that file. We're not going to read from it, हम लोगों ने write करना है file के अंदर, like append करें basically. So uses exception handling when opening and writing data to the text file. Okay, so basically what we're going to do over here is we'll just go step by step and then next part में we'll get to know कि हम लोग exactly कर क्या रहे हैं. तो हमने एक procedure बनाया store data. उसके लिए 2 parameters हैं, एक है data to store और एक है file name. Okay, and then we say open the text file with the file name that is passed as a parameter. Appends each item of the data from data to store to a new line in the text file. अब if we look into the question, तो हमारे पास arrays जो हैं वो हैं colors वाली, and in this question we also have more files जो कि हमें यहाँ पे बताया हुआ है कि ये वाली हमारे पास files है blue, green, orange, pink, yellow. तो what we basically are doing is कि हम लोगों ने जो array के अंदर color arrays के अंदर जो हमने number store किए हैं वो अब हम लोग files में जाके write करेंगे. We're gonna transfer whatever was in the array to the file. तो जैसा red वाली array के अंदर जो भी numbers हमने store किए थे उसको अब हम लोग red.txt वाली file के अंदर we're gonna write it over there. So in the marking scheme usually you won't see कि उन्होंने file path copy किया हुआ है और they're gonna check कि file का नाम क्या था when you're gonna be writing the program. कि अगर रेड लिखा हुआ है तो हमने रेड फाइल खोलनी है, अगर येलो लिखा हुआ है तो येलो फाइल खोलनी है, बट ऑब्वियसली क्योंकि हम लोगों ने सॉल्व करना है क्वेश्चन तो वी आर सपोज टू डू दैट एज वेल. ओके, सो वी आर गोना चेक कि जो फाइल नेम यूज़र एंटर कर रहा है वो क्या है और हम उसके अकॉर्डिंग फाइल खोलेंगे. तो इफ़ फाइल नेम इज़ इक्वल टू रेड डॉट टी एक्स टी, हम लोग फाइल कौन सी खोलेंगे, रेड वाली. यहाँ पे मेरे पास सारी फाइल्स हैं. फर्स्ट आई एम ओपनिंग द रेड फाइल, तो मैं रेड वाली फाइल का पाथ कॉपी करूँगी. ओके, सो आई एम गोना गेट द इन्फो एंड आई एम गोना कॉपी द फाइल पाथ. Okay, I'm gonna write the name of the file, which is red.txt, and I'm opening it for write. Okay, then I'm gonna check if the file name is equal to yellow.txt. So then I'm gonna open the yellow file. This is gonna take a bit of a while when you copy all of these file paths. Alright, so this is how you're just gonna copy for each of the colors. Okay, so now depending on the file name that the user has entered, it's gonna open the file and then we're gonna use this array to write things into the file. So we're gonna write, first we're gonna make a loop that is gonna run until the data to store wali array is does not end. Okay, so we'll just write for x in range length of data to store, and then we have to write into the file that we're opening. So we're gonna write file dot write, and then we're gonna one by one we're gonna append each of the index that we're reading from the array into the file, right? So and in the next part we also have to sort of go to the next line. So for that we have to write file dot write, and then in quotation marks we write backslash n. So this means it just moves on to the next line. So one by one until the array ends. Like for example, if it's the red array, it's gonna go till the end of the array, however many integers were in there, and it's gonna append that into the red.txt file. And then we're gonna close the file, and then we're gonna do exceptional handling. Except, because over here we had to write try. So we'll move all of this forward, and then we'll write except print file not found. We have a mark for exception handling in all of the marking schemes mostly, so this is a good practice कि आप जब भी file खोलो तो you do try and then you write in the end आप except में लिख दो print file not found. So this counts as an extra score for the exception handling. Okay, so moving on to the D part, it says each of the 6 colors has a blank text file where the numbers will be stored. The names of the 6 text files are blue, green, orange, pink, red and yellow, which we have used in the C part. बिकॉज वैसे तो आप लोगों को मार्क्सिंग में नजर आएगा कि अच्छा उन्होंने स्पेसिफिकली एक एक फाइल ही खोली हुई, बट वी डू नीड दैट इन द क्वेश्चन व्हेन वी आर सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चन और एंड में जब हमने स्क्रीनशॉट पेस्ट करनी होगी, विच इज़ व्हाई आई डिड दैट इन द सी पार्ट पहले से ही. Okay, so it says the procedure split data needs amending to call store data 6 times with each of the 6 color arrays and the name of the text file that corresponds to that color. For example, store data will be called with the red array and the file name red.txt. Write program to amend the split data. अब हम split data में कर क्या रहे हैं? Split data में we're reading the we're reading the file सॉरी, वी आर टेकिंग एलिमेंट्स फ्रॉम द डेटा एरे, राइट, एंड वी आर स्प्लिटिंग दैम, ठीक है, हम कॉमा सेपरेट कर रहे हैं, जो 10 होगा वो अलहदा हो जाएगा और जो रेड है फॉर एग्जांपल वो अलहदा हो जाएगा, ठीक है, एंड रेड से हमें पता चलेगा कि हमने रेड एरे में स्टोर करना है, वो इंटीजर एरे में स्टोर होता जाएगा, एंड दिस इज गोना कंटिन्यू until द डेटा एरे एंड्स, ठीक है। उसके बाद वो लोग कह रहे हैं कि हम लोग स्प्लिट डेटा के अंदर स्टोर डेटा को कॉल करें विद ईच ऑफ द कलर्स एंड द फाइल नेम्स, ताकि वो अब अपनी फाइल्स में स्टोर होते जाएं। अभी यहाँ तक ऑल ऑफ द इंटीजर्स आर गेटिंग स्टोर्ड इनटू द कलर्ड एरेज, राइट। अब हम लोग इसके बाद हम लोग जब स्टोर डेटा को कॉल करेंगे तो वही नंबर्स जो हैं वो चले जाएंगे अपनी कलर फाइल्स में। So if we call store data, इसके अंदर मैं for example first time red वाली फाइल भेज रही हूँ and I'm going to send the file name which is red.txt, ताकि red वाली फाइल खुले यहाँ पे and then उसके अंदर सारे integers depend हो जाए। So I'm going to do this 6 times for all of the colors. So red के बाद yellow, orange, yellow. This is the array that I'm sending, and then yellow.txt, then orange, orange.txt, then store data again, green, green.txt, then store data, blue, blue.txt, फिर store data, pink and pink.txt। तो जब मैं इसको कॉल करूँगी तो ये स्टोर डेटा जब फंक्शन जब रन होगा तो वो फाइल खोलेगा रेलेवेंट वाली, उसके बाद वो एरे को एक्सेस करेगा जो कि मैंने अगेन पैरामीटर में सेंड की थी विद ऑफ द कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग कलर। उसके अंदर से जो भी इंटीजर्स हमने स्टोर किए थे इट्स गोना राइट इट इनटू द फाइल ऑफ दैट कलर, एंड वो हर लाइक नेक्स्ट लाइन में इंटीजर लिखता जाएगा, एंड दिस इज हाउ स्टोर डेटा इज गोना वर्क इनसाइड स्प्लिट डेटा। तो पहले मेन फाइल से स्प्लिट हो रहा है डेटा, स्प्लिट होके कलर वाली एरे में जा रहा है, कलर वाली एरे से कलर वाली फाइल में जा रहा है। सो दिस इज द एंटायर प्रोसेस दैट इज गोइंग ऑन in the question. Okay, so for the E part, it says the main program calls read data and then split data. Write program code for the main program. Okay, तो हम आते हैं main program को हम separate कर लेते हैं। उसके अंदर first I'm gonna call read data, फिर I'm gonna call split data, और उसके अंदर मैंने array जो भेजनी है that is gonna be this file data वाली array. This is how I was gonna make use of file data outside the फंक्शन। अगर मैं फाइल डेटा को इनसाइड डिक्लेयर कर देती रीड डेटा के तो मैं उसको बाद में बाहर यूज़ ना कर सकती मेन प्रोग्राम में व्हेन आई एम सेंडिंग इट इनटू स्प्लिट डेटा, क्योंकि फाइल डेटा के अंदर सारा कंटेंट आ गया ऑफ द फाइल द डेटा, वो जो है द डेटा डॉट टी एक्स टी वाली सारा कंटेंट जो था वो हमने अपेंड कर दिया इन दी फाइल डेटा एरे, एंड आई एम गोना सेंड दैट टू स्प्लिट डेटा ताकि वो डेटा को स्प्लिट करके कलर एरेज में डालें। सो आई एम गोना सेंड फाइल डेटा वाली एरे ओवर हियर। ओके, फिर it says test your program, input the text the data.txt when prompted, take a screenshot of the outputs and a screenshot showing the content of the file that stores the red numbers. तो अब हम लोगों ने एक तो screenshot of the output शो करनी है, and then we also have to show the contents of the file red, जो हम लोग जिसके अंदर red वाले सारे इंटीरियर स्टोर हो रहे होंगे, तो उसके लिए भी we have to write it in the main program कि we have to open the red वाली फाइल। तो हम लोग यहाँ से जो red वाली फाइल का पाथ है उसको हम कॉपी कर लेते हैं, राइट, हमने ओपन कर दिया, वी आर ओपनिंग इट फॉर रीड, राइट, तो हम लोगों ने सिर्फ आउटपुट करना है। तो वी डू नॉट नो कि रेड वाली फाइल में कितने लाइंस ऑफ टेक्स्ट थे, कितने इंटीजर स्टोर हुए हैं, तो वी कैन जस्ट राइट के वाइल पहले तो हम रीड करेंगे ना, फर्स्ट लाइन हमने रीड की इन अ वेरिएबल कॉल्ड डेटा, तो विल जस्ट डू फाइल डॉट रीड लाइन डॉट स्ट्रिप, फिर हम करेंगे वाइल डेटा इज़ नॉट इक्वल टू एन एम्प्टी स्ट्रिंग, तब तक वो उसको रीड करता जाएगा और आउटपुट करता जाएगा डेटा को, एंड देन इट्स गोना रीड द लाइन अगेन, और जब तक एम्प्टी नहीं होती तब तक वो उसको रीड करके डेटा में स्टोर करेगा और उसको प्रिंट करता जाएगा। ओके, सो बिफोर वी रन द कोड लेट्स जस्ट डू अ लिटिल ड्राई रन ताकि हमें पता चल जाए कि हम लोगों ने कि वो एक्चुअली कोड करेगा क्या। सो रीड डेटा में इट्स गोना टेक द फाइल इनपुट, फिर इसको रीड करके वो फाइल डेटा में डाल देगा, एंड उसके बाद स्प्लिट डेटा में हम लोग फाइल डेटा सेंड करेंगे, एंड देन इट्स गोना स्प्लिट एवरीथिंग, नंबर और इंटीजर को वो अलहदा कर देगा और इंटीजर को वो हमारी एरे में डाल देगा, राइट। तो अब ये इंटीजर एरेज हो गई हैं। उसके बाद वो स्टोर डेटा में जाएगा, उसके अंदर array सेंड करेगा और टेक्स्ट फाइल भी सेंड करेगा. And then over here it's going to open the text file according to the name that is sent in the store data का parameter. और यहाँ आके वो जो जो भी array send होगी रेड ब्लू येलो में से कोई भी उसका डेटा जो है वो corresponding color वाली फाइल में राइट कर देगा. Okay, so over here we were supposed to convert whatever is in the array into a string because हमारा जो array है रेड ब्लू ग्रीन वाली दोज आर इंटीजर डेटा टाइप्स. लेकिन जब हम फाइल में राइट कर रहे होते हैं तो फाइल में राइट करने के लिए इट शुड बी अ स्ट्रिंग डेटा टाइप, आप इंटीजर नहीं लिख सकते. सो वी आर सपोज टू कन्वर्ट दैट इनटू स्ट्रिंग एंड देन वी आर गोना राइट इट इनटू द फाइल, राइट. एंड देन ये वाला सारा मेन प्रोग्राम है. सो लेट्स रन दिस. अब यहाँ पे उन्होंने कहा है एंटर द फाइल नेम विच इज़ द शुरू में जो रीड फाइल वाला पार्ट है, this part. Okay, so हम लिखेंगे the data.txt and then it's gonna open the data.txt वाली file. Okay, so now we pressed enter and we're gonna so this is the content जो उसने कहा है कि red वाली file में. And if we check from the marking scheme, so the order should be 10 9 1 76 19 38 34 46 14 45 37 and 43, which is correct. So yes, all of the contents of the red file are displayed over here, and which means that our code is working properly, right? So if you guys have any confusions, you can ask in the comments, and if you guys want me to solve a specific question or make a video on a specific topic, you can also mention in the comments. So I hope you understood this video.